Garrod, and today I'm holding a piece from our collection, a frame piece commemorating the founding of the Wayside Hospital here in Columbia by a lot of the local ladies, as you can see here as pictured on the frame piece. And in many ways, women really pioneered the founding of Confederate hospitals here in South Carolina. But it's interesting to note that before the Civil War, hospitals rarely existed outside of cities and were really served the needs of the worthy poor, as they were considered to be worthy by the charitable or wealthier citizens. Often these hospitals were considered pest houses meant to quarantine disease. But during the Civil War, hospitals became more common due to wartime needs, and eventually hospitals began to be seen more as a duty rather than just a charity. But they were known as wayside homes, sometimes as soldiers' rests, and they were established usually by the ladies as a place for men, soldiers particularly, who were in transit to get food and some minimal medical care while they were traveling, some on home for furlough, some being transported to hospitals. If it was a particularly short stop, you might have some of the ladies get on the train with baskets of food and pass that out and quickly leave, and then you were back on en route again. Other times, if you had a long layover, which was pretty common here in Columbia, you would get out. Sometimes you would be able to bathe, have a sit-down meal, and sometimes stay overnight. A lot of women from wealthy and privileged families volunteered at these wayside hospitals of varying ages, and sometimes they also hired nurses who helped. Sometimes local physicians offered their services at the wayside hospitals or soldiers' rest areas as well. Now, the Columbia women claim to have started the first wayside hospital in South Carolina, but actually it was the women of Charleston who established the state's first wayside hospital. The hospital in Charleston was established in November of 1861, while the hospital in Columbia was established about 4 months later in March of 1862. But what Columbia is known for is having the longest running wayside hospital in the state. And the story behind this is that some of the ladies from the Young Ladies Hospital Association formed a rest area, soldiers' rest, and an outlying depot, and it quickly became too much of a responsibility, so the elder matrons of the area moved the hospital to the more central railroad depot, the South Carolina Railroad Depot, and formally established it as the Columbia Wayside Hospital in March of 1862. And these wayside hospitals, they really caught on here in the state and around the South as the war continued. And by the end of the war, there were wayside hospitals in nearly every town where the railroad went through. The Confederate government actually became involved as well, and Confederate authorities sought to provide help for some of these wayside hospitals. In fact, the Wayside Hospital in Florence, Greenville, and Kingville received help and were issued a Confederate surgeon to oversee the daily operations. What's interesting too is that many of these ladies who participated or helped found this sort of hospital or soldiers' rest were also involved in other soldiers' aid or war relief efforts. In fact, some of these women were involved with the organization and carrying out the Great Bazaar that was held here in Columbia in January of 1865. Keep in mind that March is Women's History Month, so come on out and bring the children, especially if you haven't been here in a while, and help celebrate Women's History Month with us. Thank you.